Hello folks! Today's video is about disadvantages of playing the baritone horn, which I have played since I was in the grade number 7, and so a lot of these have been my personal struggles that I've experienced playing the baritone. Number 1. Playing the baritone is basically like playing the trombone, but with less opportunities. For example, I wanted to be in jazz band when I was in high school. There were no baritones in jazz band, but there were trombones in jazz band. I am auditioning for PMEA District Band, but I can't audition for PMEA District Orchestra because I play the baritone, and there are no baritones in PMEA District Orchestra, but there's trombones in PMEA District Orchestra. When we were having pit orchestra for like the people that play in the orchestra for the school musical, they do it based off of like what books they have for different instruments for the specific musical. There were trombones in pit orchestra. There were no baritones in pit orchestra. So basically, it's like, with the sound, it's basically like playing the trombone, but you do not get the opportunities that a trombone player has, and it's very sad. Number 2, baritones are very heavy, specifically the marching baritone, to march and have your horn angle be parallel, for example, and it's extremely heavy at like the top of it, so it's hard, opposed to like the opposite side of the bell, so it's extremely hard to have it parallel. And then when you have it like down by your side, because it's differently weighted on both sides, it's hard to know if you have it like parallel or not. But I picked up a trombone one time. It was so comically light in the way the weight was distributed. Even carrying a trombone case, the way the weight's distributed, it's completely absurd how light it is. It's like really absurd. Number 3, baritones are basically an outcast within the band. No one ever thinks about the baritone section. It's always trombones, oh yeah, and baritones. Sometimes we play the same thing as the trombones. Sometimes we play the same thing as the tuba. Sometimes we play the same thing as the French horns. Sometimes we play the same thing as the tenor saxophones. But we're always an outcast within the band. Number 4, when you say you play the baritone, no one ever knows what you're talking about. Or if you just say the baritone, they might think you're talking about the baritone saxophone. I had this, I don't know if you would say like psychologist or therapist, probably therapist, and I told her that I play the baritone, and I think the whole entire time she thought that I was talking about the baritone saxophone, because one time she asked me a question about the saxophones, and I was explaining it to her, and I was talking about how there's alto saxophone, there's tenor saxophone, there's baritone saxophones, and then she thought that I played the baritone saxophone, and I never told her I didn't because I just didn't care. But anyway, it's just really crazy to me. I'm adding this later. I forgot to add. Or if they see you with a baritone, they'll say, "Oh, do you play euphonium?" No, I do not play euphonium. I play a baritone. Anyway, number 5, things are simply just not made for the baritone. For example, sometimes, like I was in band, and because of the coronavirus and stuff, we had to get bell covers. Sometimes we were given bell covers that were for trombones, and the trombone bell is significantly smaller than the size of the baritone bell, and they simply would not fit. Like, you'd have to really stretch them. It's really absurd. Most specific struggle that I've had is with getting a lyre, like to put your music on. You don't go to the store and get a baritone lyre. I got like one for whatever instrument, and then like my teacher or other people had to like bend the metal. It's completely absurd. Or you have to get like a trumpet one or something like that, but it's like not the same size. Like it's just simply not like that. And I can't imagine the struggle of trying to get a mute for a baritone. I also forgot to add, my teacher when I was in middle school, it was like another lyre, was literally adding electrical tape like around the bottom of it so it wouldn't fall out because it was not the right size lyre. And then number 6 on my list of disadvantages is that there can be confusion as to whether or not you play bass clef or treble clef. And like, for example, if the librarians in your band don't know that there's like treble clef and bass clef, they might just give you one because they don't really know, and then you might have the wrong clef music, and it's completely absurd. And within your section, if, like, let's say only one person plays treble clef and no one else plays baritone clef, you can't really help them with, like, their notes and stuff because they play a completely different clef than you. And it's, like you can if you, like, think about it, but, like, you really don't play the same instrument, kind of. So, those are the disadvantages of playing baritone.